lost objective Charlie.
Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today we're going to talk about flying in Battlefield 5, and I figured why not do it with fully maxed out graphics with a GeForce RTX 2080 Ti, ray tracing enabled for the ultimate visual spectacle. And piloting with full graphics is like a different experience. It just looks absolutely incredible. I'd like to thank NVIDIA for sponsoring this video and sending me an RTX 2080 Ti video card. Now, with RTX enabled and the graphics maxed out, explosions show up in the sheen of the metal of your aircraft. That's the one thing that you're going to notice reflecting when you're flying around, is your aircraft, and the metal will reflect the environment around it, or explosions and stuff like that, and it just adds that extra little bit of visual quality. This is probably one of the best looking flying experiences you can have in any video game. There's plenty of realistic flight sims out there that have realistic air velocities and engagement distances and things like that, but Battlefield offers air and ground combat in one of the highest visual fidelity environments available. Now, that being said, the flight mechanics are going to be different from anything that even attempts for realistic aerial combat. Sure, you can pitch, yaw, roll your aircraft, and airspeed matters and leading your target matters, but for the most part it's a very arcadey experience when it comes to engaging other pilots, and it does require a bit of knowledge to get better at and figure out how to outmaneuver, outperform your competition. Piloting is often an equal blend of strategy and skill, where you can have all the skill in the world, but you put yourself in a bad situation and you're not going to be able to fly your way out of it. Now, in a more traditional flight sim game, you usually have two primary tactics when flying a fighter plane. There's turn and burn and boom and zoom. Turn and burn means you have a fast turning aircraft that can turn around quickly and try and get on the tail of another aircraft in a sort of slower moving dogfight. Boom and zoom means you have a fast moving aircraft, maybe with not the best maneuverability or as agile maneuverability, and so what you want to do is you want to come in fast, you want to hit hard, and then get out of there with your speed before that airplane can turn around and get on your tail. Boom and zoom, from my experience in Battlefield 5, has not really played out particularly well. Most of the dogfights really turn into a bit more turn and burn, even though some of the airplanes can be upgraded with nitrous to help them escape battle quickly, to try and instill that sort of dogfighting mechanics. I think it still needs to be finessed a bit more. I think DICE is going for sort of a boom and zoom option. I just don't think they've quite hit upon it just yet. However, what does become an effective tactic in a turn and burn fight, which is what most of the dogfights turn into, is braking and using cover to sort of throw your opponent off. So turning around a cliff, or using the environment to try and throw off your opponent from getting a clean shot for a little while you slow down, hit the brakes, and try and get them to overshoot you. You lose a lot of your agility when you're moving slowly, and so somebody on your tail trying to get a good shot into you is going to have a really hard time if they're slowing down to stay on your tail. So this becomes a very effective tactic. As you can see here in this clip, my opponent has overshot me. I'm able to speed back up, get back on their tail, and win the dogfight. Now, that's definitely more of an intermediate tip. What if you're just starting at the beginning? How about controls? How do you control your aircraft on PC or console? First of all, I would highly recommend adopting a controller. If that feels natural to you or you're comfortable on a controller, you can be an ace pilot using a console controller. In Battlefield 1, there were some extremely good pilots that would dominate me all the time that were flying on controllers, so you can absolutely use that. You can plug in an Xbox controller to PC, or if you're playing on console, then you're basically set up and good to go. That being said, I do fly with keyboard and mouse, and here are my key bindings. The philosophy behind my control setup, which you don't have to adopt, but it works for me, is binding all of my basic movement controls, so rolling and pitch up and pitch down, to keyboard for fast and easy access to movement. Then I've got throttle on spacebar, slowing down is on Alt, so I can either speed up or slow down with my thumb very quickly. And then all the main quick maneuvers and important maneuvers are WASD, so I can do those as fast as possible whenever I need to. Now when it comes to finessing my aim, I've bound yaw, which is normally A and D, to the mouse. I've also bound pitch up and pitch down to the mouse so that when I'm finessing my aim, it kind of works similar to a first-person shooter. I move the mouse up, I aim up, I move the mouse left, I yaw left, and so it kind of mimics that first-person shooter style aim, which is great for zeroing in on ground targets or zeroing in on somebody who I'm on their tail if I really want to finesse that aim and get it in a little bit better. Now, the only problem with doubling up the controls here is that sometimes the mouse overrides the keyboard, and it's a little bit more sensitive in Battlefield 5 than it was in Battlefield 1. I notice it happening a bit more, and it'll interrupt a smooth turn that I'm doing on occasion if I nudge the mouse or bump the mouse. So you got to be aware of that, and that's why I don't consider this to be the ultimate control setup. I like it. It worked well for me in Battlefield 1. It's a little bit less effective in Battlefield 5, but I don't want to learn a controller or a different control scheme to try and figure out the ultimate control setup. I think this is a good way to fly if you want that sort of hybrid controls and you're having trouble finessing your aim on mouse and keyboard. I enjoy the setup. And you can see from there that it does really allow for maximum maneuverability, because with the press of a button, I can get the effect of going full right or full left on a joystick, which is actually a bit faster. That's why people don't really fly with joysticks in Battlefield, because you can react faster with mouse and keyboard. With controller, you can actually move pretty quick with the controller and finesse it a bit better. So I think you can get very close with the controller, and if you're good with that, that's why I do recommend sticking with it. Now, I have a feeling airplane meta with the abilities, timing, reload times, and stuff like that, it will be changing quite a bit in the future, but there's still some basic tips that you want to practice to improve your piloting or your tactics in general. First of all, repairing your aircraft with quick repair is an important thing to keep in mind. If you look at the icon at the bottom of the screen, it'll be an outline of your aircraft, usually in white, but when you're damaged to the point where it's affecting your maneuverability, that will turn red. And that's bad if you're in a dogfight. If you're damaged and you can't turn as fast as your opponent, then you're basically going to lose that dogfight. If you have a quick repair, you can repair quickly and get back in and not be at a disadvantage when it comes to maneuverability. However, you have to go back to a resupply point if you've already used a quick repair to get another opportunity to use this. It does have a cooldown, so you can't just go to a resupply point and spam quick repair. You're going to have to wait for the cooldown to recharge. So not only is it important to go back to a resupply station to get more ammo and more rockets and bombs and stuff like that, but also to resupply your quick repair, as that will allow you to survive a dogfight where somebody gets the jump on you, or maybe an anti-aircraft gun hits you while you're chasing down your opponent and all of a sudden you can't stay on their tail. That quick repair will allow you to stay in the fight. Holding down your normal repair key mid-flight will allow you to restore some of that maneuverability. However, you'll be extremely slow and sluggish while repairing in flight, and this is not recommended when somebody is on your tail. Absolutely do not hold down that repair key, or you're just going to be a sitting duck. Not to mention, every time they hit you, it's going to interrupt that repair, so you won't really be accomplishing anything anyway. As a fighter plane, one of my favorite upgrades on a specialization tree is air radar. It'll turn your minimap into a circle in the lower left-hand corner, and it'll show you airplanes that get within, I believe, 250 meters of you. This really helps you just identify when somebody's on your tail. It's a good idea to use your reverse cam as frequently as possible, just to look behind you and figure out where enemy aircraft are. But if you are just focused in on somebody, or you're on another plane's tail and you see a red plane on that air radar behind you, that means you've got an enemy on your tail. And if they're not shooting you yet, it's probably because they're lining up for a really intense volley of fire to try and disable you in one big volley. So that air radar can really save your butt and let you know when you need to back off and worry about your own tail. Here you can see me trying to take advantage of the out of bounds area on the map. Out of bounds will get rid of the third person targeting reticle, so it can be hard for pilots using third person aim to try and shoot you down if you sneak out of bounds. And so that's what I did. did. I hit the brakes and he overshot me and I was able to get away. Flying low can also be a really good way to move around a map a little bit more stealthily. Anti-air cannons will usually be looking up in the air, and so will aircraft. It's very easy to spot enemy aircraft as they're silhouetted against the sky. Whereas you're flying low among trees, it's going to be really hard to locate those aircraft, and in my opinion, that's the easiest way to sneak up on other airplanes or even ground targets if you're going for an anti-air cannon or a tank or something like that. However, you do expose yourself to tanks or infantry with Panzerfaust looking to nab themselves a low-flying aircraft kill. So be aware of your environment, your surroundings. One of the biggest influences of what's going to happen in the air is often the ground. How well is your team or the enemy team controlling the anti-aircraft cannons? Do they have anti-aircraft tanks? Those things can really make a huge impact on dogfights and who's controlling the skies. So the more aware you can make yourself of that, or the better you can coordinate with ground forces for taking them out, the better off you will be. I often try and equip my fighters, whether it's this heavier fighter, the Mosquito, the twin prop plane, with rockets or something like that, so that in a pinch I can try and go after an anti-aircraft gun that might not be looking my way. It's nice to have options as a plane, especially if you spec a fighter plane to only engage other aircraft and you shoot down all the other aircraft. Well, you don't have as much point on the battlefield at that point. So I like to have a good hybrid build that gives me some options. Now, the tactics of flying in the meta and the builds for each plane are varied and potentially complicated, and there's multiple strategies for approaching everything. I mostly just wanted to give you guys some basics, some beginner tips, some intermediate tips that I think are some of the most important things to sort of realize and figure out from the start. I would definitely like to do some more in-depth flight guides, and I hope you guys enjoyed the visuals of this video. Again, if you want to enable NVIDIA ray tracing technology in Battlefield 5, you need one of the new RTX video cards. If you'd like to get one, check out the description for the Buy Now link, and there'll also be more information there and some really cool Battlefield trailers actually showing off more detail on the RTX effects, especially at the ground level when you're playing infantry. I think RTX is just an absolute blast when you're in the sky and also on the ground in a land vehicle. I did a really cool Tiger tank video with the RTX enabled as well, and it just looked phenomenal. So I highly recommend RTX if you are a sucker for really good looking visuals. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.